Hey there, ladies and gentlemen. Jens Davidson here again. It has been a long time. I've been really busy with moving into my new farm property, getting situated, and then not long after that, my parents moved um, up closer to me because they're pretty advanced in age. Um, Good to have them close by in case something happens. So yeah, getting them moved was quite a fiasco because they lived in the same house for 52 years. Anyhow, kind of finally things are slowing down so I can get going on projects again and hopefully get back to making videos because I know it's been quite a while. This is my latest project. This is a handmade Kuro Uchi Nakiri. Kuro Uchi is a Japanese term meaning black hammer that refers to the unfinished top here. Um, Basically, this is the first project that I ever forged using a power hammer. A very good friend of mine has a very well outfitted blacksmithing shop, and he lets people that he knows and trusts come on over once a week. He's an elderly gentleman, and we can go to his shop, and it's a potluck kind of thing, and it's called a hammer in blacksmithing terms. You can forge whatever you want. He's very generous with his shop and his equipment. So this was the first piece that I made using a power hammer in my life because I started blacksmithing in 2014 as a graduate student, couldn't afford anything, and I still can't afford a power hammer because they're several $1,000s. Plus, you need the infrastructure on hand, like a several foot thick concrete slab and three-phase power, etc., etc. But since I had access to one, forged me one of these. This is from a railroad spring clip, um, and those turned out to be 1065 high carbon steel. Excellent material for making knives. Um, so I just finished this. Like I said, forged it over a year ago. I think it was probably around September, October of 2021, and there was a bit of a twist in the blade, um, and with everything else going on, I never got around to it. So finally, this afternoon, had a clear schedule, and I was able to get that twist out just by clamping in a vise and putting a crescent wrench to it. And then the handle, really proud of how that turned out. I've got this weird fetish for hexagons, both forging them and carving them. I think hexagons are absolutely beautiful. I think they're superior in every way to the octagon and certainly a square. I like the symmetry, the angles, etc., etc. It's me. This handle was from black walnut that a friend of mine gave me. It's mildly figured, um, pretty good looking material. You can kind of see a little bit of holographic business going on there. It's not super polished or anything like that because it's a knife to be used. And I turned this on my lathe first by carving the material to a gentle taper because Japanese style knives, you always want to have a gentle taper toward the front of the blade. And then once I had that established, my lathe, the head of the lathe, it locks into little spots. You can lock the head every 22.5 degrees, and with that, I was able to first lock the head lock the head such that the spindle is perfectly round at this point, so there is no top and bottom, right? And I use these woodworking rasps called Kutzall, it's a very atypical rasp. It's basically little tungsten carbide teeth, conical shaped teeth, and it's great for really aggressively removing material. And so I started by defining a top just by locking the lathe again and trying to keep my hands as level as possible and rasping the top until I got a flat that was probably about half this width, and then flipped it 180 degrees. Did the same thing here to make sure that I've got two parallel faces, and then I indexed it 90 degrees, and I carefully worked these two, literally just guesstimating what would be 60 degrees by trying to balance out the flats that I already established here, trying to balance them out to get them to a point in the middle. And then I flipped it 180 degrees from here, like so, And then we worked on these two bevels. Again, it was just guesstimating and adjusting my hand and my grip on the rasp as needed to get what looked even. And then from there, I just slowly went around, brought that down a little bit wider and a little bit flatter. And it's a hexagon is 60 degrees, so you're not going to get an even division with 22.5 degree increments, but you know, you're able to kind of get the feel of it and rock the rasp back and forth to make sure that you're on the flat, and then just kind of use muscle memory to just keep planing them down. And once I rasped it to the point where all the edges met with the point, then I used just sandpaper with a flat bar and went along and sanded them to about 120 grit. And then I put a piece of sandpaper on my joiner, just the table, using the table as a flat surface, and then I just hand sanded up to 400 grit, and then finished it with tried and true finish, which is a mixture of beeswax and boiled linseed oil. From there, at that point, the blade was already hand sanded here and heat treated and tempered and everything like that. I fitted the handle into the fitted the blade into the handle via the tang, which goes to roughly here. I heated that up with a propane torch till it got cherry red. I had pre-drilled the handle just by hand, and then you know the hole was a little bit smaller than the handle tang, and so when you heat it up red hot, you push it in, it literally very gently slides in because it's burning its way in there. You have to force it, but it goes nice and smoothly in there. It smokes all to hell, but you end up with a very, very rigid fit. And then I took it out, threw a whole bunch of epoxy in there, crammed it back in, and that shouldn't go anywhere. Then lastly, at that point, the edge was not sharp at all. There was probably 0.010 of an inch edge thickness, so that it was close to being sharp, but dull enough that I couldn't possibly cut myself by accident when dealing with the handle, etc. So I brought it in here to my kitchen, and using a series of Japanese style water stones, most made by Norton Abrasives, starting with 220 grit to finally establish the primary bevel here. And then from there we worked our way up the grit to 20,000 grit, and then stropped it, and yeah, this thing is a giant straight razor. So anyhow, let's see what it actually does. This is my first time. Oh my god. This is hilarious. I'm hardly putting any pressure on it. Oh my gosh. It's parsley, obviously, you should be able to tell that. I've never come close to that. Jeez. Yeah, that's my first impression. I'm gonna carrot. Let's see here, if I just use the weight of the knife, oh, it's gonna rock. That's just the weight of the knife. See that? I'm not forcing it down. I have to rock the carrot a little bit. Just wiggling the carrot, but unfreaking real. I've always been good at sharpening knives, but I really took the cake on this one. I don't think I've ever done this good of a job. Holy cow. Anyhow, my battery's about to die. This video's already about 10 minutes long. Really appreciate you guys watching. Stay tuned. I'm going to try to get more regular in it. I still don't have a functional blacksmith shop here, but it's hopefully on my agenda tomorrow. So Happy New Year's, everybody. Hope you have a safe and joyous celebration. And we'll see you next year.